Welcome back to the Global Goals Studio, where we're talking about what the private sector needs to do right now about getting racial justice to become a reality. Professor David Olusoga, we often see short-term changes in response to historical events like the BLM movement. Does it feel different to you this time? Is there going to be something long-lasting coming out of this?
I think it's a bit early to say. Like June, I think there was a lot of quite naive messaging that took place last summer. But I think there's two areas in which companies are being asked to show their seriousness. One is about doing audits and measurements of their diversity index, of their seriousness when it comes to policies that are going to bring about inclusion. But the other thing, and this is true in the United Kingdom, the United States, and other countries, is to investigate and publish findings about the historic links to slavery, to imperialism, to the global forms of exploitation in the past, as well as those in the present. Now, I think a lot of companies are willing to at least do the messaging and in many cases do tangible, measurable changes to their diversity inclusion policies. Fewer companies are willing to open the Pandora's box and to look into their organizational, their historic cultures. Now, there are organizations doing this. There are a number of investigations, reports, academics are being involved and recruited the whole time to do this. There's a lot of work that is going to come out. But the question then is, when companies reveal the scale of their entanglement in this history, what do they do about it?
Yep. That's a great point. And it is a Pandora's box. John Rice, my friend, you are at the forefront of what companies have to do right now in terms of recruitment, training, promoting and managing their workforce in a way that not only honors this conversation, but is intentionally anti-racist. What's your advice to these executives that you work with?
Yeah, and first of all, Richard, great to see you. Thanks for engaging me in this conversation. I think that the first step is that leaders of these organizations need to be well informed about the problem/solution. And what I mean by that, why we are where we are on racial equity and what we need to do to move the needle. And this past year's racial reckoning in the United States has started with George Floyd. The statements that that organizations put out standing against racism and the blowback that they got from their people of color who told them that their lived experience is fraught with racism and fundamentally inconsistent with the statements that the organizations put out externally and internally, that exposed our smartest, our most admired executives as candidly stupid when it comes to racial equity. It's sort of akin to, would investors have confidence in a CEO who's in the financial services world who said, I don't really need to understand how Bitcoin is going to influence our business going forward, or a tech executive who said, when it comes to AI, we don't really need to know how that's going to affect our business. I'm just going to delegate that down in the organization because I can't really figure it out. Never be the case. But that is actually what we've done with DEI and racial equity. And they've been exposed as failing the competency test and not being prepared to move the needle on something that is now an enterprise risk. Because if you're not moving the needle on racial equity, you are on the wrong side of racism. So once they get informed, then they need to actually make some of the tweaks to their talent acquisition, talent management engines so that they work for people of color, just like they've been working for white people from the beginning. So two practical thoughts on what they can do. Now, number one, on the recruiting side, is that organizations actually need to move from an approach to recruiting talent that actually is akin to a elite university admissions model, where you put up an application up and thousands of people just come by your door and apply. And they need to move actually to an approach that looks more like how oil companies execute their business, meaning they hire smart people to figure out, scientists to figure out where might those deposits of crude be, and then they invest over a period of years in the infrastructure to find those deposits. Then with that pipeline, they excavate those deposits, bring them out in a pipeline, and then they send them to a refinery where they add a lot of their secret sauce, and then that's finished product. That's the mentality that we need to move to with respect to recruiting. And finally, we know with respect to to developing the talent that we have. Actually, I think we need to move from a world where we focus on unconscious bias training to a world where we focus on proximity training, meaning, let's focus not on what's in the heads of white males, okay, but let's actually help them understand what's in the head of the people of color who they're managing. And that's going to be really critical. So that we can actually develop the talent that we have and address more racial, actually move the needle on racial equity.
We'll be right back after this break. You're watching the Global Goals Studio.